Hey, this is the old gaming geezer. Welcome along to episode 25 of the Indeterminate stuff. Now, what you're seeing here is the refueling ship, the dual refueling ship, coming into setting up a maneuver node to do an aero braking around Lathe, which will put me in a much better position to get out to Tylo to refuel the Satanta, and there it is. It's about to do the actual maneuver, and we're going to burn now any sec. I really like this ship. It's tidy. It's a tidy little ship, and I like tidy little ships. Yes, I do. I like it a lot. And so we're on our way. Now we've got to set up our alarm. It's quite a bit away before we get to this, but, you know, we can wait. We can wait. Meanwhile, out around the orbit of Eeloo comes our Eeloo ship. Finally, after 5 years in space, they are finally approaching Eeloo as we reach our sphere of influence change alarm from the Kerbal alarm clock. And we are slowly coming in to get into the Eeloo sphere of influence, and the boys in the ship, led by the indomitable and apparently unkillable Shepin Kerman, are quite high above Eeloo, so high that I can't actually see it, but then I spot it, so I'm trying to get in closer to Eeloo, and I don't want to be that high. Really don't want to be that high when I'm in orbit, because that would just be terrible. So we are now burning to get ourselves into a close flyby of Eeloo, and at our closest point, we shall burn like crazy to put ourselves into a nice orbit. So this is the first time that I have ever sent a crew, a ship, a crew, or a lander, or anything out as far as Eeloo. So I have no idea what to expect. It looks like it's an ice planet. Kind of looks like Europa. Kind of looks like Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, but you know, it's probably not. It looks like it's a dirt ball covered in a film of ice, and you can see little bits of dirt through it. But you know, it's not like Europa, because Europa is actually covered in sulfur, which it got from volcanic plumes from Io. So it's got a film of sulfur over its ice, but Eeloo here has no such problems with backwash from neighboring planets, because it has no neighboring planets. It's the furthest planet out from Kerbal. And here we are, the boys in our ship, slowing down to put ourselves into an orbit around Eeloo. And it's quite a long burn, as you can see, and it takes me quite a while to do this burn. I think it was actually a 12-minute burn to slow myself down. Suffice to say, it wasn't the most... it wasn't the greatest transfer orbit I had for Eeloo, but I managed to get into orbit, and that's the important thing. So, as we get our orbit down, we have to decide who is going to land on this wonderful new planet. We've got a slightly eccentric orbit, but we're going to bring it down to a much more circular orbit. Circular, nice and tidy circular orbit. And, yeah, I'd forgotten so much about the ship, but it's very simple. There's nothing really to forget, to be honest. It's I don't know, 8 months since, or sorry, not 8 months, 4 or 5 months since I launched this ship. We're doing some orbital science now around Eeloo. Now you'll notice that there's the lander on the front, and on top of the lander is a kethane scanner, which will launch anyway. But the lander itself has no solar panels, so we're going to keep the probe on the top, the satellite on the top, so that while we land, as Shepin Kerman, of course it's going to be Shepin Kerman, gets out and heads over to the lander, and we're going to keep that probe on the top of it while we land. Whoa, and we lose control. It's been a while since I've played this game. Really, I had a couple of month break there, but I'm trying to get this whole Indeterminate stuff series to bring it to a conclusion. Anyway, so Shepin, he finally detaches from the main ship and tries to remember how the RCS works. Now, this ship only has 2 RCS clusters on it, but those are special B9 aerospace thrusters where you actually only need 2 of them because they have more nozzles, shall we say, than the standard ones. And so we are rotating our ship into position, getting it away from the mothership, activating our main engines, and we are going to burn to land somewhere on the daylight side of Eeloo. Now, luckily, we went into a prograde orbit, not like our little problems with BOP the last episode, so we're not going to land at night when we think we're going to land in the daytime. Because in this mission, we are not at home to Mr. Cockup. I know I've said that many times before. I'm not going to say it again. Okay, and so we're getting our first real close view of Eeloo now. We have those brown valleys. I'm wondering what they are. I'm trying to think of what the real-world analogy of Eeloo would be. I'm going to shut down my solar panels there just in case. We do not wish to lose them at this point. We should have enough power to land. In fact, we've got plenty of power to land. And our engines, of course, are generating power. So it's all good. It's all good. But that probe has got loads of batteries on it, so even if we were using LV909s, we'd still have plenty of power from those batteries. So we're slowing down. Now, Eeloo takes quite a lot of fuel to land on. It takes quite a lot more than I expect. It doesn't take a lot, but it took more than I expected to land. But luckily, I kind of over-engineered this ship a little bit, so I didn't have any problems really getting it down. And so we are coming down slowly. The ship is a bit top-heavy with that probe on top. It was never really designed to land with that on top. So it's a little bit wobbly and a little bit squirrely because of the probe, really. Our center of gravity is a little bit higher than it should have been. But we get down. We almost fall over, but we get down. And we're good. We're down. Shep bin Kerman becomes the first Kerbal to land on the planet of Eeloo, the furthest planet from the sun. And, of course, Shepin is going to do a little science while he's there. And I could read that if my preview window was not so small, but my preview window is small, so I can't make that out. But anyway, so we're doing science with our graviolis and our thermometer and all this kind of stuff, the seismic analogy stuff, seismic analysis stuff. And so Shepin now gets out. He collected all of the science from the science base, but I didn't bother showing that. And he gets out and he's going to do a jump. The jump, and look at that, the gravity on Eeloo is quite high. It's higher than I was expecting. So we're going to do a little walk around on the surface of Eeloo, and we're going to do our reports, and we're going to plant a flag. So what words of wisdom will Shepin have for us? What message will he leave for history? Eeloo landing, yay. That's very profound, Shepin. Very, very profound. Well, Shepin has probably got some things to do. He's probably got to go and die and resurrect again. So he's not going to stick around. He's going to just double check everything, take all of the data. Even though I said I did already, he's taking all the data. And we are going to retract our solar panels. We're going to wait till our mothership is at a good position, and then we're going to take off, and we're going to head home. It's, well, we're probably going to have to wait quite a while until we get a return window, but he's going to get back up to the ship now, because he's missing the 2 boys. He's missing Obzer and Bilgun, who he spent 5 years cooped up in that tiny little can, the 3 of them together, and who knows what they got up to in those 5 years. Oh, their sweaty green bodies pressed up together. He misses them terribly, terribly. So we go back in, and Shepin does a very, very expert docking maneuver. I'm being very careful. We're being very careful in this docking so that we don't bash any solar panels, because we don't wish to lose solar panels this time. No, sir, we do not. So at this point, Shepin is going to pop out of the lander. He's going to grab all of his science, all the things that he's been doing, that we've been doing up until this point. And why did he get back out? I don't remember. Oh, I wanted to check the there's a goo container that we didn't use there. I was just checking to make sure that we had the goo science from orbit. So now he gets back into the ship. I didn't really bother showing it, so instead we're going to show us deploying the kethane scanner, which we're probably not going to use because we're probably never going to come back out here again and scan for kethane, at least not in this save game. But I put it in a polar orbit. This ship has got a bucket load of Delta V, so I had no problems getting it from an equatorial into a polar orbit. It was very quick to do, as you can see. Even though we are running at a 4 times time acceleration, it was still very, very quick to do this. Burn. So we get it into a nice polar orbit. We activate our kethane scanner, and we begin the scan for the beautiful green. The green of kethane. Maybe one day we might come out here again, but probably not in this save game. So I scanned anyway. I scanned, and I scanned, and I scanned, and I scanned, and I scanned. But it's good to know that there's kethane out there. If I ever need a fuel base out from the farthest reaches of the Kerbal system, Kerbin system, who knows? So meanwhile, I decided to check back in the Kerbin Space Center to see if there was any contracts for landing on Eeloo, but there wasn't. There was a couple for Paul and Bop, and I figured I might be able to try and do at least one of these, so I tried to do the Bop one because I still have a ship in orbit around Bop. But the lander has got no power, no fuel, no nothing, and I'd have to try and dock with it with the expressway to heck. And the expressway to heck, even on the best of days, is a nightmare to maneuver. So I decided this is not going to be happening. This is not going to happen. So I figured that I need to do something else while I wait. And what I want to do is I want to bring the crew of my Minmus base home. The Minmus base Alfalfa. Because these guys have been out here for a long time, and I figure I may as well bring them home. I'm going to try and bring everybody home over the next couple of episodes. And these guys are right here. They've got plenty of fuel on the one of the part of the base. Managed to fit everybody into this one single part of the base. There was only actually 5 guys in the Minmus base, but as you can see, taking off from Minmus, I forgot how easy it was to take off from Minmus, and I did a terrible, terrible launch, and I had to correct to get a proper encounter with Kerbin. So what I wanted to do, of course, was I wanted to aerobrake this thing into a fairly low Kerbin orbit. I have a little problem there with the Mun, but we'll go right past it and we'll do a little aerobraking. So once I get past the Mun, I decide to lower my orbit, use my engines to lower my orbit a little bit more. And at this point, I realize I am coming in retrograde. So I forget about that, and I go back out to my periapsis, and I spin my orbit around. I burn not too much fuel, but a little bit more than I was hoping. And I split my orbit around, and of course I get another encounter with the Mun, so that's fun. But so at least now I'm orbiting prograde. I'm going to have to send up something to help this ship, because this ship actually will not be able to land safely on Kerbin because it doesn't have any parachutes or anything like this. This ship was never designed to land on Kerbin. Sure, it's got plenty of landing gear and landing wheels and all that kind of stuff, but landing on Kerbin, not what it was designed to do. So, and here's me aerobraking down. I decided to aerobrake it down into a low Kerbin orbit. And this took quite a while because I didn't bring it low enough into the atmosphere, so I kept having to bring it around again and again, and I wanted to change its inclination to give it a to put it into an equatorial orbit as well, which burned up a lot of my fuel. But again, I kept trying to drop the orbit a little bit to try and get a little bit more braking. I was being really cautious because I didn't want the ship to brake too much and then crash, because that wasn't the plan. That was not the plan at all. So eventually we had probably another 10 spins around Kerbin to get my orbit down. There's a 5 million kilometers. But what am I going to do when I get it down? How am I going to get it down to the surface? So I need to do something which I've never done before. I need to resupply this ship because I want to take the whole ship back because I want the cash. So I'm setting up this ship. Now this is an experiment. I'm using a mod that I've never used before, and this is the payload on this rocket is a new thing, but the main launcher itself is an old launcher. I'm just reusing it. Thank you to the sub-assembly loader. God, I couldn't think of the word. Anyway, so this ship is going into orbit, and you can see on the sides of it there, we've got some odd-shaped parts. Those odd-shaped parts are equipment containers, and those equipment containers contain parachutes, which we shall attach onto the side of the module of the Minmin Base Alfalfa. So, meanwhile, of course, the Minmin Base Alfalfa is still aerobraking. And still aerobraking. And it is adjusting its inclination and wasting a buttload of fuel to do it. That's right, I was trying to match the inclination with the resupply ship I sent up. And as I said, I used a huge amount of fuel to do so. I should have matched the inclination of the resupply ship with it, but I did not do that because that would have been smart. So here we are, multiple aerobraking maneuvers later, and finally, this took hours. I got annoyed. I just brought the resupply ship in, and when I got the Minmin Base Alfalfa module down low enough, I just brought the resupply ship in close enough. Rendezvoused, equalized my orbital velocity, and went in for a docking. So I dumped off that large launch stage I had because I didn't need it anymore. And so this thing's quite small, which means that it's a little bit squirrely to dock. And I'm just so out of practice in this game, I must say, that it took me a little bit longer than it normally does to dock. I quite pride myself in my ability to dock pretty much anything to anything. But this tiny, little, well-balanced module took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to dock. So, we're getting out one of our guys. And he is going to go down and pick up a parachute from one of those boxes. Yes, he is. Now, this is the Kerbal attachment system that I'm using. So we are taking those boxes. You can put different objects into those boxes. So we're going to take a parachute. Each of those boxes carries 2 parachutes. I have 2 on each side. I only needed 1 box. I could have put way more parachutes in there, but I put 2 on each side for balance purposes. And now here we have the problem. Because there's a big, huge parachute on the back of this Kerbal, his stabilization system isn't working properly. Now, this is not something that I expected at all, and I'm spinning out of control. The stabilization system on his suit is not designed to have a big parachute on the back of it, so it's not able to correct itself. So I had to kind of manually wait until the Kerbal was facing the right direction in his spin, and then hitting one of the thrusters to bring it back close to the ship. This was quite scary. I actually thought that I was going to lose my my Kerbal. But eventually I got him close enough. Now, I actually did not know what to do next. I didn't know how to actually get the parachute onto the ship. So eventually I got him fairly close, and I got him to dock, and the thing came off, but it actually hadn't. It's still connected to him. And so I clicked on it, clicked on the side of the ship, and it connected into its right place. And of course, my little Kerbal, I think that's Lodwise. Difficult to tell in the preview window. Lodwise went flying off in the wrong direction. So, and he comes back, and that was very scary. So Lodwise is going to get back into the pod because that was hella scary. But, you know, he comes back out, and he grabs the next parachute, and he knows what to expect now. So very carefully, he moves, just turning on his thrusters, just for little bits at a time to get into the correct position. Now, you'll notice that I moved the parachute from the capsule to the hitchhiker pod because I didn't want the parachutes to rip off the top of the lander can when they opened. But eventually I got them both on. I got all 4 parachutes on, 2 on each side, 2 on the lander can and 2 on the hitchhiker module. Now, learning what I learned from the Paul and the bot missions, I quickly checked the contracts window to check was there any contracts I could do in orbit, and there is. I could test the landing gear, airplane landing gear in orbit on a suborbital trajectory. I got it right. Also, there is a Kerbal stuck in orbit. Now, I could easily pick up this Kerbal in orbit, and also this pod has got landing gear on it. Excellent. Some easy money. So, Lobus Kerman, I think his name is. Lotus? Can't tell. Preview window's too small. Blah, blah. I say that every time. But it is. So, Lotus Kerman is being picked up by the Minman Base Alpha, and here's Lotus Kerman heading in towards the Minman Base Alpha. And he is going to get on. Luckily, there's room for one more Kerbal in this. So he spins around the other side, jets in close, and he is going to attach any second. There he is. He attaches, grabs on, pops into the hitchhiker capsule, and I think we're ready to test. There we go. We got the contract for saving him. And, now we're going to test our landing gear on a suborbital trajectory. So I'm actually trying to get this thing fairly close to the... there we go. We got it. We tested the landing gear. We got the contract. We've got some cash that we did not normally have, and we're very happy about that. So we tried to land this thing at the KSC, and obviously, as you can see, we were right on target. We are miles away. We're on the other side of... We're a quarter of the way around the planet. But we land safely, and we get to recover the ship. Everything's all gravy. And I recovered the ship just before it flopped over and exploded. So there we have all our guys home and available. Not all of our guys. We've got a load of guys home and available for missions. We also had a contract to build a space station. Now, as I said, I'm short on funds right now. And I want to make sure that I've got enough funds to cover any strange costs that may arise in my current ongoing missions. So I figure I'm going to launch a small space station. And so again, using a very simple rocket and the minimum space station that I can get up there to fulfill the contract, I launch this wonderful little space station. Yes, it's a space station. It's got enough capacity for, I think it's 6 Kerbals I have to have there. It needs to have a docking port, needs to have a lab, and it needs to have a communication system. So, and it's got all that, and power. It's got some RTGs on there as well. It's got everything it needs. So we are now on our way to having a wonderful space station. So we put it in orbit with this huge rocket. Oh, I love these NASA rockets. Well, and we get this in orbit. We're about to drop our stage, I think. And there she goes, and we're going to recover all those funds. And we're going to get this thing into orbit. So this is just a standard orbit. There's nothing crazy about it. We're around about 90 kilometers. Actually, no, we're 105 kilometers circular orbit. And we're going to drop off that stage, and we're going to bring it home to save some cash. There, we've got our cash from getting our space station in orbit. So we're very happy. We're all very happy. Everyone back at the KSC is very happy. So now we are going to return the orbital stage back to the planet to save some cash. I'm going to... This is my second try now. I'm going to try and get this to land at the KSC, unlike the Moonbase Alpha, which landed nowhere near the KSC. But that's okay. That's okay. This time I'm confident that we can get there. I mean, we landed on the total wrong side of the planet. So here we are. We're getting close. You can see the KSC off in the distance there. I'm just adjusting my orbit to get myself close. I probably burned a little bit too much, but we're going to land on the land. We're going to land fairly close to the KSC. So I'm happy. I'm happy that this is all working out. So as we lower ourselves down, we're going to deploy our parachutes any sec. And there they go. This is the old gaming geezer. I'm going to sign off for now. In our next episode, we're going to finish off our Julian mission and start bringing everybody home. If you like this video, hey, hit like below. If you really like it, why don't you subscribe? This is the old gaming geezer. Good night. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Adieu.